No Bull is a sports talk podcast that primarily focuses on track and field, with a particular emphasis on upcoming athletes in high school and in the Caribbean. Hosted by Gary Bullard and Courtney Sinclair, the podcast covers a range of topics including news, results, controversies, and other sports as well. With a no-nonsense approach, No Bull provides insightful and entertaining commentary on the latest happenings in the world of sports.
Hi, welcome to the No Bull podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Courtney.
And I'm Gary.
And tonight we're going to be talking about the upcoming track and field season, where we're going to give our predictions on who we think are going to be the standout athletes of the year. I'm going to be naming 3 athletes. And Gary, you're going to be naming?
3 as well. 2 or 3.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to start with the standout from last year, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. I believe she's going to have an outstanding year again this year. She has been running. Last year, she ran times consistently in the 10.6s, 10.7s. She has given up on running the 200 this year and will be focusing solely on the 100. She has not even ran her first races yet for the season. She has even come out and said that she wants to do 10.5s. So she's been focusing training on doing 10.5s, and maybe getting closer to that world record. We'll see. Everybody says it's impossible, but nothing ever is impossible in sports. My number 2 athlete that I would think about would be Shericka Jackson, the breakout athlete from Jamaica for last year in the 100 and the 200. She is probably more realistic that she is the one who may be closer to that 200 world record than Shelly-Ann is to the 100. She's primarily a 400 runner, and stepping down to the 1 and the 2, we have really seen her blossom. So we're looking for some fantastic things from her this year and also next year in the Olympics. Those are my 2 returning athletes from last year. One new athlete who's just moved up to the senior level, also from Jamaica, is a young girl, Tina Clayton. She recently ran a sub-11 for her first time, and she dominated the under-20s, was world champion from last year. Now that she moved up to the senior level, a lot of people are counting her out because the Jamaican field is so strong. They don't think she's going to make the world championship or the Olympic team. But she is determined to prove everybody wrong, so I'm looking for big things from her, and we'll see what happens with her. So those are my 3 picks for breakout season again this year, standouts. So Gary, what do you say?
Well, I definitely agree with you on Mommy Rocket. She is the premier. She is the queen. Nobody is beating her on a consistent basis. So she dictates what she does, when she want to do it, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So we give her kudos, give her the crown. She's worn it well. She's continued to wear it because there's nobody that's beating her. Correct. So there's nobody that's beating her year in and year out. I mean, I agree. Shericka probably is going to step up. Even in the 100, because Shericka came second behind her in the World Championships. I heard some talks about Shericka running a quarter. I'm going to put the no bull stamp on that one. No bull. I don't like Shericka in the fourth quarter. She was a top world leader, but she didn't do as well in the 400 as she's doing in the 100 and 200. So stick with what she's doing well. She's close to breaking the world record in the 200. And who knows, in the 100, she gets her start together. She take over for Mommy Rocket, who probably is going to retire after the Olympics next year. I'm going to put a pin in your 3rd pick of Tina Clayton because me and you spoke about one Brianna Williams. But I think what happened was you saw that race on Saturday, and Brianna got her little booty spanked left and right, and she didn't look good at all.
She did
You
not.
know, she did not look good at all, and in no phase of anything that she did. You know, it was just like she was just running, and there was no effort in that last 30, 40 yards. You know, as far as trying to keep her form for practice and say, okay, this is what I've been doing so far. So I understand why you replaced her.
And Brianna actually ended up third in that race. She didn't even cross the line second. Actually ended up coming third. She just totally gave up.
Oh my. Well, so I was going to talk about the premier athlete over the 100 and 200, which is a quarter, which was none other than Shanae Miller-Weibo. We just found out that she's pregnant, so blessings there. That's a miracle, but everybody knows Shanae has been on the track since 2010. Carifter, World Championships, CAC Championships. She's won the last 2 Olympics. She won the last World Championship. So I really was expecting her to keep her crown here for the World Championships. That's not going to happen. Right. And we're really not sure as far as her game plan for 2024. But just wishing her well. I hope she comes back. But she's going to come back to some runners in that quarter. We'll talk about that later.
Right.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about another Bahamian young lady. She's a high hurdler, such as myself, 50 pounds ago. And her name is Devane Charlton. I really like her style. She does need to work on her start. She's a Purdue Boilermaker, but she also has come up in the ranks. She's more so, she really does well in a 60. I mean, she won the the CAC championships last year, 2022. She won the world indoors last year, 2022. And she's doing well this year. So I really like, she's really close to the hurdles and she's short. So I really like her chances to be in the finals of all of the major races this year. We're really looking forward to seeing her. A second athlete officially, not from the Caribbean, that I'm a little scared of, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is Femke Bol. Running the 300 and the 400, broke the world record in the 400 meters. She broke a 49-year-old record in the 400 meters. You know, this young lady from the Netherlands is only 23 years old. Now, we all know her as a quarter miler. You know, she came third in the Olympics in 2020. She came 2021, sorry. And then she came second last year in the World Championships. She was able to beat Mohammed. And lo and behold, the last few years, she's also been running a quarter and helping the Netherlands in the 4x4 for quite a bit. So she is going to be something else with the strength that she's had and the speed that she's developed. And her eyesight definitely is on Sydney, right? But again, Sydney is not looking at anybody. Sydney is looking at herself and looking forward. So I think that's going to be hard to beat Sydney.
Quick question for you on Femke. Do you think she could double in the 4 hurdles and also the flats?
Sydney's going to do it, so definitely. That's what it's almost like she's following in Sydney's footsteps, per se, almost. You know, it's just that, you know, Sydney is not going to run indoors, but Sydney is she has some space and time above her. I'm just saying that I think that she's just following in her footsteps.
That 4 field is going to be stacked because I think Moo is talking about coming down and doing the 4 also. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, it's not just a thing, Mo. It's Sydney that's going to be joining the 400. You have those 2 young girls from last year. I don't know if you remember the 4x4. The young girl, Britton Wilson, who ran that awesome third leg, and Diggs, who opened it up. they just killed it in the indoors NCAAs.
Diggs just got beat in the championship, NCAA indoor
Yes.
championships.
Yeah.
But she still looked good, but she just still got beat. So we'll see how she does on the outdoors.
Yeah, so those two are there. Sydney, a thing moon. So when Shanae comes back, she's gonna have a bunch of mess to deal with. If Sharika runs the quarter, what if Abby runs the quarter? We really don't know. We don't know if Abby was just running that just for strength.
Right.
Just for strength. We haven't seen her. I haven't seen her any 60 meters. So is she going to run the 100, which is my third athlete, but of course my number one. I love me some White Lightning, and she's streaking up and down the track last year. So I'm looking for big things for her. She's not going to have 55, 57 races under her belt for 2023. So I'm just looking for her to run some consistent times under 22 seconds in the 200 and position herself again for the 4x1 and then and also maybe the 4x4. I'm not sure because the U.S. has so many dominant quarter milers now. I mean, Sydney, Athing, the two college girls. I mean, last year in the World Championships, they broke the world record. I mean, the U.S. record on home soil, fastest time ever, with Abby Steiner, the two girls from college, and also Sydney. Sydney ran a 47.8 in her split in that quarter. Unbelievable. So the U.S. women in the 400 is going to be tight. That's going to be awesome to watch.
What about Gabby Thomas? What is she going to be doing this year? Is she only going to be doing the 2?
I know that she runs the 100, but I think that her forte, her specialty will be the 200.
Okay.
And of course, that's going to be Abby Steiner. You do have the young lady, I think, from one of the African countries, Ophelia, that's still in college this year.
Yeah.
LSU. Yeah. So.
Ophelia.
And again, nobody's going to. I don't think anybody's going to beat Sharika.
I have a question for you. You mentioned Ophelia, the African athletes. The World Athletics just came out, and the new transgender DSD ban. What do you think about that? We had Mboma Mathalinga, 2 young African girls that were doing really good. The ban basically said that they couldn't run any event. If they had very high testosterone level, they couldn't run any events longer than 400. So these girls stepped down to the 1 and the 2 and were doing fantastic. Now there's a total ban. Unless your testosterone level is below whatever the reading is that they set the bar at, for 6 months, you cannot compete in any World Athletic Sanction event. So in Mboma, Mathalinga, Semenya, all these African girls can no longer compete at Worlds, at any of these events. So what do you think about that?
Well, the World Athletic Organization is trying to keep up with almost everybody else, especially the swimming organization. So to just correct it just a little bit, transgenders are absolutely banned. So
Correct.
Anybody that's reached male puberty will not ever get the chance to run. But the DSD, which of course is a difference in the sex organs, genes, hormones, they have a chance if by keeping the estrogen to a certain. the testosterone level.
Right.
So there is a chance that they can run. They just have to work on reducing the testosterone. How they do that, I'm not sure. I'm going to look into that before the next show to see if there's, anything that they're taking to decrease the testosterone from, whatever genes that, they were born with. And of course, I think that it's, I don't know, it's a sticky situation, because you feel that if they have more testosterone, they have a little bit more advantage to train harder et cetera, et cetera. As we saw in Samania, she dominated the quarter and the 800 for quite a few years before they stepped in. But I just think that the World Athletic Organization is definitely doing the right thing. Definitely doing the right thing.
But is it unfair to these athletes because these are naturally occurring? This is the way they were born. Their bodies just for whatever reason are producing this extra levels of testosterone. It's not as if they're taking drugs or anything like that. These are naturally produced in their body, and they're being punished for that. Um,
And
it's
yeah,
I can see both sides of the argument, but what do you say to the athlete when it's like, wow, this was my life, this was what I trained for, this was what I always done. Now I can no longer do it.
well, again, they just have to find. I would say, find a way to reduce your testosterone. It's not. I wouldn't say it is what it is. I would say that, um, unfortunately, you were mixed with genes that contradicts from 99.9% of all the other females on the earth that are competing. And unfortunately, you have to do certain things extra, which is what some people do. Some people have, they have different ailments that they have to take medicine, or they have to take, natural fruits and juices to combat a certain thing, so they're able to run or compete. So it to me, it's really, it's different because they have a certain level that they have to meet. But we don't know how many athletes out there that are struggling to maybe meet their weight, or they have to drink or eat certain foods in order to compete. So we don't know all of those stories.
Right. Question for you, it's changing the subject again. Very interesting that in all our picks, both you and I, we all picked female athletes. What are we saying about the men this year?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm looking for. I mean, to me, and obviously was Usain Bolt not
You
being
got the big
here.
void, yeah.
He left a big void, but the U.S. men are stepping up. I mean, they came, 1, 2, and 3 in the 100, the 200. I think they came first and second in the 400. So they're dominating the sprints now. Curly got hurt, so she wasn't even on the 4x1, which they lost to Canada and DeGrasse.
Right.
So I see some big things there. I don't know if you heard, but Michael Norman is
Yep.
coming down to the 100 and 200. He beat Michael Norman 2 years ago, beat Noah Lyles in the 200. He ran a 19.5, so he definitely has the speed. Curly, we didn't know that he had that speed, and he developed it, and now he's the number one sprinter in the whole world, i.e. Jacobs over in Italy being hurt. But, we haven't talked about it because I'm just so apprehensive and looking so much to the quarter this year for the women's. But
On the female
on
side.
the female side, yeah. So um, Noah Lyles, he may be able to break Blake's record in the 200. That 19.26. I don't know if he'll go after Usain Bolt and then just try to ride it for 2024 and do something spectacular, like an 18.99. I don't know. But he
You
surprised me. He was the athlete of the year
last year.
because of that 200-meter run, because nobody in the world expected him to run a time that fast. No one. I mean, they was talking about Sharika being close, and she was. Sharika ran exactly what people thought she was going to run, but nobody in this world figured out that Noah Lyles was going to run the 200 the way he ran it. And now he knows the formula, which Usain Bolt was coming off that curve in the lead or close to it.
Right. You mentioned Blake. Surprisingly enough, in that same meet that you mentioned on Saturday where Brianna got beat in the 200, Joanne Blake won the 200 for men's in Jamaica, running Decent time, 20. I think it was 20 point something. Decent, nothing spectacular, but he's still hanging in there, and maybe he has something left in the tank. So
Well, kudos. I mean, um, to me, Jamaican runners, the Jamaican coaches, everything with Jamaica to me is number one. So you have athletes from all over the world going there. So I think that just kudos to him for him sustaining his longevity. And I know I'd asked you this before about maybe Jamaica, maybe the Bahamas building an indoor stadium. They build it, people will come, especially to Jamaica.
yeah.
You'll have a lot of Jamaican athletes there. You'll have a world athletes coming there. I know that it's only for a few 2 to 3 months, but again, they build it, people will come, and they.
Interesting enough, you mentioned about the Jamaican coaches and stuff being like number one in the world. They do have a college that focuses, GC Foster College, that focuses on training coaches, getting their badges, certifying them so they could then go back to their countries wherever they're from. So a lot of other Caribbean countries are now sending their coaches over to Jamaica to get trained to help to develop their athletes. And even in our high school championships, there will be athletes from, I believe, 19 to 20 countries outside of Jamaica competing in our high school championships in Jamaica. That's how many countries are sending their kids to go to high school and to train in Jamaica. We just saw Anthony Strong win the what was it, the 100 or the 200 for?
She won the 100.
She won the 100, yeah.
Yeah, she looked
She looked
strong in
good.
that.
She looked
She
great.
looked strong. Yeah, I haven't seen her run like that. Quite a while. So
Yeah, and I didn't even realize she was at MVP training at MVP. Yeah.
oh wow, that's crazy. That's
So
But I mean, if you want to be the best,
yeah,
you wanna,
yeah.
so it is what it is. I mean, Jamaica is it. I mean,
And
so
one of the things with the Jamaican athletes was that in the past, once they left high school in Jamaica, they would go to come to college in the U.S. We're finding it now that because of the coaching level rising in Jamaica, a lot of the athletes are staying home. Even some of them that went to college in the U.S. are going back home. Take, for instance, Kemba Nelson, who was at Oregon. She's back home in Jamaica now. Brianna Williams, you mentioned her. She was with Otto. She's back home with in Jamaica. So a lot of athletes are saying, you know what? I could do it locally at home. I don't have to go overseas to do it no longer. And if I'm going to be a professional athlete, I don't have to go the college route. So a lot of the athletes are bypassing college. We mentioned the Clayton twins earlier. They both 17 years old. They had one more year of high school eligibility, and they gave it up. They didn't go to college. They went straight into the pros. They're at MVP also. And a lot of the girls are saying, we don't need to go the college route. Let's go and start proving ourselves. But let's start actually training, running against these top athletes and developing our skills and see where we could go take this to.
but I think the Jamaican government, one of the good things they're doing, I think they have a budget that they actually pay X amount of athletes. Definitely, what I see is that the track clubs and coaches are unbelievably able to get sponsors, U.S. and European sponsors for their teams. So you have a lot of Jamaican athletes running around here with Puma and Adidas and Nike,
Nike, yeah,
and then and of course the top ones have or have contracts with these. So these young people in Jamaica, they're saying, okay, well, they can make money running at an event. If they get to a certain level, they'll get promotional just to come to the event. They'll get money and supplies from the attire, shoes, clothes. So it's a business, but I mean, Jamaica, man, it's competitive, man. You just can't go there and step up and say, yeah, boy, I can run the 100 bait. No. You can't do that. You got to be training, and it's so competitive in Jamaica.
It's so funny. I was watching the Barbados high school championships last week, and they were running without blocks. They were doing starts without blocks. I'm like, how do they expect to develop these kids if they're not running with blocks from their 6, 7, 8, 9 years old? This is crazy. And then I watched the Bahamas Carifta Championships and the high school championships also over the weekend, and I believe it ended on Monday or Tuesday night. And it was just not the same level of cohesion and coordination in the way I saw athletes sitting around. They've warmed up. They're supposed to run at a certain time, call time. They go out on the track. They're doing award ceremonies and they're sitting around. Athletes are getting cold. So I just don't see the same level of push from the athletic association in these other regions to develop their athletes to bring them up to the same level. Even though I must say, one country that we're not starting, this is a very small country, the U.S. Virgin Islands. For whatever reason, they are sending a lot of their kids to the U.S. to go to school, and they are doing some fantastic time. There's a young girl, Adeja Hodge. She just ran at the New Balance Championships up in Boston, and she tore up that 200. She just set the world record for on the 16, I believe, 200 meters in the world um, at 16 years old. Fantastic young woman. I saw her, I believe it was last year at the Carifta Games in Jamaica in Kingston, and I had my eyes on her since then. And she's one for the future. She's still very young, but definitely one to look for in the future.
Isn't Alfred from Virgin Islands? The one that goes to Texas that just she broke Abby Snyder's 200-meter record and she ran a 6.97 in the 60 meters.
I
What
believe
island is she from?
let me take a look at that. She is fantastic, that Alfred.
She is strong. She reminds me a little bit of what was the Jamaican sprinter Brown?
Veronica Campbell Brown.
Yes, yes, a little bit of her.
It's so funny. I had a discussion with someone recently about Jamaican female track, and they're talking about what's her name that did. I think she went to five Olympics, and then she ran for Slovenia.
Not Merlene.
Yeah, Merlin Ottey.
Yeah, okay.
She's like the start of the domination of the Jamaican athletes. She didn't have the success that these girls are having now, but she definitely set the trend and that was the impetus for a lot of them to follow. Yeah, eventually she had married a Slovenian and ran her last Olympics for Slovenia.
I always thought Grace Jackson was the first. Remember Grace?
Yeah. Definitely, there were a lot before. I mean, Jamaica has been doing big things in track and field from the 40s. We had Arthur Wint,
Yeah.
these guys from way back then.
Donald Quarry.
Donald Quarry.
Wait, was he a pretty runner or what?
Yeah.
That
I mean,
man's high heels, high knees was superb, man.
and one of the things, because we export, for a small island as small as Jamaica is, we export a lot of athletes. We had Ben Johnson. Even though he was banned for steroids and stuff, he ran for Canada. Donovan Bailey ran for Canada.
Yeah.
Bunch of these guys. Even now, we have so many athletes that the Arab countries, Dubai and Qatar and those countries, are paying athletes to change their nationality to come run for them. And a lot of athletes are doing this because they can't make their national teams. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
if I can't make the national team out of Jamaica and there's this rich country that's going to give me citizenship, pay me $2 million to come run for them, hey, why not? I might not win, but at least I get to go to the Olympics.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time here, but we have we'll definitely be able to make up. I think that our next conversation, we concentrate on some athletes, but we're going to be looking at the outdoor season. And by then, when you start seeing some races, I think there's a race this weekend, and I think every weekend there's going to be something outdoor that we'll be able to handpick and look at and say, hey, this person's doing this, or look forward to this.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's a race next weekend in Miramar, Florida. I believe Sharika Jackson is going to be there. I believe Shakari is going to be there. And a number of other top athletes are going to be there. So I may try to go to that if time permits. I had wanted to go to the Carifta Games in the Bahamas to see the juniors run, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make that. But that would have been interesting also. But definitely a lot of meets to look out for and see what these athletes are doing.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, Courtney, with the no bull.
All right, Mr. Gary, thank you very much. This was very interesting. Look forward to doing this again very soon.
Absolutely. Good night, all.
Good night.